have a look of a dad's army about it a little bit. How are you guys doing on finding young talent, and what are you missing? And also, since you go around India pretty much covering games, both IPL and the smaller leagues and stuff, what do you think of this whole thing? Is this plethora of talent, does that actually because the places are limited anyways at the very top, right, at the national team?
Yeah, I just think, good afternoon everybody. I think it's the role and the responsibility of the coach and the captain and the setup to make sure that there's consistency in selection. Because when there's consistency in selection, players and fans understand that a player is going to get a run. And if you have that in place, players then will be able to perform without pressure. So Mahela talks about taking pressure away. Rohit says go and have freedom. The only way a player can have freedom to go out there and express himself is if he knows that there's no pressure on him having to score that first game, or the second game, or the third game. So if you're going to blood a youngster, you're going to blood anybody and bring anybody into an environment, you look after them for 3, 4, 5 games. But that has to be the responsibility of the franchise to know that you've got that in place. Because if you don't have that in place, a player will know that he's got one opportunity to come out there to score his runs or to take wickets. And then there's an extreme amount of pressure on that individual.
Sure.
So the youngsters that come in, Burman that played the other night, he didn't play, but that was dependent on, he played and he played okay. And I don't know if he's going to play this evening. But it's a case of watching and understanding how the setup is. And when you look at a technology system like this and they put this in place, then Cricketlytics or whatever it's called, it makes the fan understand the game a lot more. Right. And the power of social media does change a lot of things. Journalists right now on the back of social media, players perform on the back of social media, players get depressed on the back of social media. So when you start to put all these analytics together and the player and the fan becomes a lot more engaged, then the franchise has to sort of pull the players into that sort of ring of fire and give them a run. Because if you give them a run, then you can only see if the player can play.
Brian, how's the West Indies doing in terms of finding young talent?
The young talent is there, and if I just to give a broader answer of the general question is why are these young players getting the opportunity now? But I don't feel it's any different now compared to 20, 25 years ago. Sachin Tendulkar was just 16 years old when he made his debut. He must have been doing something very good at 14 and 15. What the IPL and other franchise league has allowed now is a platform for all these young players and franchise owners to go out and scout for young talent. So what you have now is 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old on a large stage, how many million people watching them. But before it was there, just take for instance Carl Hooper. Carl Hooper was 16 years old when he scored 100 against Malcolm Marshall, Joel Garner, Sylvester Clarke. Right? If it was in today's world, he would have been a huge superstar. Every franchise would want him. So I don't think there's a difference. Now the real difference is the actual platform that the young players have and the opportunity at a level even before international cricket. So you have young players, 16, 17-year-olds, like the name you called earlier on, but you also have older players that will never play for their country that are actually playing in the IPL. So it's broadened the reach for cricket. It's broadened an opportunity for everybody, young and the ones that can make a living from the sport that maybe all you can do 15, 20 years ago was if you don't play international, you're not going to be financially able to settle things in the future. So for me, young cricketers are always there. And I love the fact that these leagues are now opening doors for them. I went to do some work for Rajasthan Royals, and they had, I think, something like 300, I'm not sure if the numbers are right, 30 to 40,000 kids coming out from different rural areas around India just to have an opportunity. That was not the case 15, 20 years ago. And the same thing is happening in the Caribbean. Everyone wants to play franchise cricket. Yes, they want to play for the West Indies, but what they're seeing on TV now is a great opportunity for young people to get out there. And, you look at Puran, you look at these guys who, what comes first? The IPL comes first. The opportunity to impress an owner comes first. So we've been doing our job. I mean, the West Indies is not 1.3 billion people. It's 1.3 million people in Trinidad, maybe about 5 million in the whole of the Caribbean. And we've been doing our best to try to unearth. And I think things like the IPL and the other leagues are creating the interest once more again in the kids in the West Indies.
Thanks, Brian. KP said something which stuck in me. He was talking about how, besides the journalists writing about the players' performances and stuff like that, and also about social media and that creating its own sort of noise that you guys have to deal with. You both are contemporary players. Is that really an issue? What is written in the press, what is discussed on social media, is that something that registers? Is that...
It will be an issue if you look into it too much, and you grow into it by experience. It just doesn't happen overnight. You have to go through that. Like the power of social media these days, yes, definitely has taken over, and it has taken over individuals' mind. But again, I feel that discipline you need to bring into yourself. Like when you play a game, you need to be disciplined, and what you do outside the game, also, it's the fact where you need to be more disciplined, because it's very simple. Like these are distraction, and one need to be smart to avoid those kind of distraction, and one should understand what is that thing that if you do will make you a better cricketer or a better person. Those kind of distraction you need to stay away from, and you need to be smart at it. As simple as that. I've seen individual getting distracted by it.
Yeah.
But again, it all depends on each one of them, how they take it, and as soon as the match gets over, you don't just get onto your phone and see what people are talking about. And I think it comes with experience as well to some cricketers. When luckily for us, when I was drafted into the squad, there was no thing called social media, so it was good. But yeah, these days it's been there, but you need to be smart as to when you want to engage with that.
Sure. Smriti?
When I came into the team, so women's cricket was not much in social media. So when after the 2017 World Cup, it really came into, everyone knew about women's cricket. They knew about everyone's name, and then there were articles written on us, and the social media was criticizing us, appreciating us. So all those things were really new for every one of us, and I would be lying if I would say that it didn't affect. It did really affect everyone for the first 4-5 months, but later on, when we started touring and then we got into the cricket again, we started playing cricket. I don't think then anyone really got affected by what was written about the team or about the individual. And as he said, it's about being smart. If it's really affecting your game, doesn't really you don't really need to go on Instagram and read every comment about your batting. So it's as simple as that.
Thanks. KP, I just wanted to shift from the IPL to the geared towards...
I'm not a weatherman.
Yeah, there are some mates of yours where, but I'm not going there. Leaving the weather aside, what's it like?
I mean, I think I know where you're going with this question, and I think it is going to be weather dependent. Last summer was one of the most beautiful summers since, I think, 1976. It was one of the hottest summers recorded in the UK. There was literally hardly any rain at all. Conditions were extremely dry. Playing in England over the last however many years, conditions have changed. So when I started playing for England in 2004, there wasn't that sub-air system underneath the grounds to take out all the moisture. So we would play a test match at Lord's, and before the sub-air systems came into the ground, if a huge rainstorm came across, that would be the day washed out. So when I started my career, it was amazing. As soon as the rain came, you knew that was your day off. But it changed. So all the grounds employed, so all the Trent Bridges, the Birminghams, the Lord started it, then they went to all the test grounds to make sure they maximised the amount of time that was played. So if a storm came through, The sub-air system obviously dragged the moisture, and within an hour they would mop up and you'd be back out and playing. Now, for the viewer, it's great. For the players, it's good. If you're in good form, if you're batting well at the moment, it's great. Or if you're going to win a test match, it's fantastic. However, it has had an impact on the wickets. So we started a test match against India in 2000 and somewhere. And on day one, it was it was green surface like this. By the end of day two, it was completely dry. Now, we didn't have any rain on the day, but the moisture that was sucking the system dry was completely depleting any grass on the wicket. So with that being said, if the conditions are like they were last summer, then I think the subcontinent teams are going to have a massive role to play in the World Cup. If they're not, and it's horrible and green and it's seaming all over the place, then I'm sorry, Rohit, but it's going to play into England's favour, and it's going to play into the teams that cope best in those circumstances. The one downside for England, though, is that they have the licence to go out and hit a six from ball one. And in those kinds of conditions, it's actually quite difficult, if it's swinging and seaming, to have that licence to go out there and mow it. Because we've seen in the West Indies, on a wicket that did a bit, was it Barbados the other day, where the West Indies knocked over England? England, though they have a formidable approach to the way that they go and the licence to go out and slog, they can get undone.
Thanks, KP, for the advice.
You know I like you, mate, but I'm just being real.
And because KP brought up the West Indies, Brian, what's happened in West Indies cricket over the last 12, 16 odd months? You just come off
at home. India may have to worry when they come there in July, August to play against the West Indies, because you have a team now that feels that they understand the conditions. This is our conditions. We played well against England. Spirits are high. Let's see what we can do against India.
Right.
But 4 months ago, October, November, we were terrible in India. So I'm happy to see that we've made that little progress in our cricket, and hopefully, we can carry that sort of form into England. Now, when talking about the World Cup, you look at the IPL and you look at leagues around the world, we've got players that are maybe the most wanted players in the world. Chris Gale, Bravo, Sunil Narayan, Russell.
Yeah, sure.
All these guys are tremendous, but I'm not sure who we're going to pick. I'm not sure who's in good favors with the board. We've got a new president. I don't know if that things are going to change, but we've got match winners. We're going to need a little bit more than match winners in English conditions to win a World Cup. You would need a team that can create consistency. If we can get to the knockout stages, we can knock out any team. We've seen that in the past, but consistency is going to take us right through to the final. So I give us a little bit of chance, but I'd like to see the team selection first.
Thanks, Brian. Mahela, Sri Lanka. No, seriously. Always produces brilliant players, always produces great teams, always the one that is, constantly on everybody's radar. What's happening with Sri Lankan cricket? Is it politics, or is it lack of players coming through the system? What exactly is going wrong?
I think it's a combination of everything. I think what's happening, you should probably ask, like Brian says, the politics, the boards, the selection processes. Usually you plan for a World Cup years ahead, at least 12 months, knowing what your combinations are, where you're going to play in England, who are the players. But all of a sudden, they said they're playing a provincial tournament this week to finalize their World Cup squad. So that shows a little bit of inconsistency in their approach. So it's not alarming because there is talent. There is, some good players who had experience in World Cups before, who's been in finals and performed. So Sri Lanka always turn up for a World Cup, knowing that they can, be there. So I'm hoping that mental preparation is there. But leading up to the World Cup, we haven't done well. I think we probably won a handful of matches in the last 12 months in Sri Lanka and away from home. So that wouldn't give any confidence to anybody. There hasn't been a consistent selection process saying you guys have got role identification. This is your role in this team. This is what we want from you. We had like 8 different opening partnerships. That doesn't put anything in place, especially when you go into England. Where you need to, the top 4 guys are very crucial in those conditions. So I think they need to find solutions for that, some soul searching. Hopefully this domestic tournament is not going to make a huge impact on the selection process. I think they need to back the guys who've done the job in the past and try and formulate a team with experience, with some young talent who will go and express themselves. I think that's the way forward, and I'm hoping that the common sense will prevail.
Fingers crossed for you guys, mate. Rohit, we don't know what's going on inside the dressing room. Obviously, it's always what you read outside in the press and like you said, on social media. I want to, from you, do you have a sense of, are you now a settled World Cup side? Because Mahela was just talking about, you start preparing and you start getting a sense of who's going to play what role, all of that at least 12 months before the tournament. So a 2-part question. 1, how settled does India feel right now? And 2, do you guys get a bit uncomfortable about the fact that you're playing an IPL and then heading straight into a World Cup?
To answer your first part, I think we are pretty much settled. There's few spots which is left, which everyone knows about. But again, that all depends on what the captain and the coach and the selectors think about the combination, whether they want to go with the extra seamer or the extra middle order batsman and an extra opening batsman or an extra spinner. So that all depends because like KP said, the conditions in England will matter the most. The last time when we were there, the conditions were really dry. And I don't know if it will be the same again there. If it is like that, we need to get an extra spinner there. As simple as that. And if it's not, we need probably to get an extra seamer there. So all depends on what they think. And see, of course, and I also understand you would not know what the weather conditions would be like. So you have to pick the team in the next few days, if I'm not wrong, in the next few weeks actually. See, I've captained Mumbai Indians, and I know how it works with the captain, because that preference of the captain is very important in terms of that extra player that you want in your squad, whether it's a batsman, bowler, or a spinner, whatever it is. So I think Virat and Ravi Shastri have to decide what exactly is that combination that they want, or what extra player, or where is that extra cushion that they're looking for. That is something that will matter the most. So I think with their inputs, the selectors will keep an eye on what is happening with those guys during the IPL. Although I feel IPL shouldn't be the criteria for the team selection. We played enough international matches to see where each individual stands, because you can't select a 50-over format with the 20-over format. That is my personal opinion. And IPL is a different ball game. It's a franchise cricket. Yes, the form matters a lot, but again, like I said, in this last whole year, we played enough one-day international matches. We played enough T20 cricket. So that should be enough for the guys to understand, these are the players that we want. And your second part of the question is, see, we've all been to ICC tournaments, Champions Trophy with playing IPL.
Right.
And every time you play IPL, there's a big tournament happening right after, whether it's a big test series or a big one-day series that we play. Most of the guys are used to it. And I've spoken to a lot of guys also on that particular aspect. And they feel it's nice to be in that groove when you're playing a lot of games. It does help also. But again, guys who are 35 plus or 40, they probably need some rest. But a lot of the guys, especially the bowlers, like I was talking to Jasprit the other day, and he feels that he needs to bowl a lot of balls and play a lot of matches to be to stay in the shape and be in that form. And for me as a batter also, I would like to have some runs under the belt, keep hitting those balls before I go into a tournament like World Cup. I don't
Thanks.
think it should be an issue like that.
So basically, you're saying India is pretty set, except for these one or two little tweaks about extra spinner, extra what's the conditions like, all of that. Smriti, you're not allowed to say India in answer to this. What's the other team you're following in the World Cup and why? You can't say India. Come on.
No, I don't think. I'm really cheering only for India.
Oops. Well, I mean, good, but
But I think the way Australia played in India, I think that would be the second team I will be following, but definitely
not cheering.
like it will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 India, and then the other teams will come out.
Thanks. I just wanted to shift the conversation a little bit. Like you just saw, we are looking at data as one of the drivers of what our content is going to be. I want to ask this. That's the other thing that has happened in relatively recent times, right? A huge mass of data coming through, becoming more accessible. I want to ask each of you guys this. How has data changed the way you see yourself as a player? I'll get to the coaches and the commentators in a bit, but has this helped you evolve in what way? Examples, if you could.
It has massively. I think the information that we have these days through data, it's massive because when I like to believe in strategy when I'm captaining, so I like to follow certain matchups to the opposition players, the bowler matchup, the batter matchup, and based on the data that we have. Data always cannot be right, we know that, but it is some sort of information that you have before you enter the field. So I think it's on how you use that information. It's like, the buffet is laid out. It's on you what to eat.
Sure.
So there are a lot of information that is available. The ground condition, how many runs have been scored, like on an average on this particular ground. I'm giving you a few examples.
Sure.
Certain bowlers against certain batters, those kind of things. So a lot of things are available, but it depends on you what you want to particularly take from that. So I generally try and spend some time with our analyst and see is there any insights that I need to look at, or is there any other factors that I need to look into before heading into the game. So yeah, those informations are very important, and I think it has evolved my personal batting as well, because you get to see what mistakes that you're making and you get to rectify, speak to your coaches, and have that dialogue with your coach about what went wrong and what you were trying to do in that particular game. So those sort of things, and to see where generally the bowlers are bowling at you. You also can get to see that, what are your dismissals like. So those kind of things, there are so many, I can talk all day about it because there's so much information available. But generally, I prefer it to just narrow it down to very little information and then take it from there and try and see if I can use it
What
on
your
the match
strategy
day.
is.
Yeah.
I was almost tempted to ask you what your strategy was yesterday against the CSK batsman, but don't want to put you on the spot. You're going to be playing them again, right?
No, I said it at the post-match. It was important because 170 on that pitch, I didn't think it was a good score, honestly, because we know at Wankhede the Duke plays a big factor in the second half. And it was important for us to take a couple of wickets or maybe more in the first 6 overs with these guys, because we've seen their top order, the top three, the last season in particular, got them a lot of runs. As a result, they went on to win the tournament due to that. So it was important to knock these guys off with the new ball up front and then see what happens after 6 overs. So that was the idea, and we did that perfectly with the new ball.
Smriti, how about you?
Yeah, definitely. I think he's covered most of the points regarding that. But we generally sit with our video analyst and plan about a batter who we are playing against, and is she good at spin? Is she good at pace? We get to know all of that stuff, and especially tosses always depend on the wicket conditions, but it also, helps to know that what is the first inning totals and which team has won most of the time, batting first, batting second. All these things really help to, analyze, and definitely it helps a lot in batting also. You really see the videos or the scores and, all the data available, and then you sit with your coach, think about how we've got out and how we can improve as a player. And especially in the off season, it definitely helps a lot, sitting back with your coach and going back to basics and to know what to work on.
Mahela, 2017, you were part of the team that at the mega auction and the IPL, there was this whole, at least that's the story, that Mumbai Indians was really looking to, use that auction to completely reformat the team. You had the core, but then you were looking at various requirements from a long-term point of view and stuff like that. You guys were very active in that particular auction. Obviously, you did a lot of research. How do you coaches, for instance, what kind of data were you looking at? What insights were you looking for from this?
Especially in the auction format, we look into a lot of venue data on Wankhede, especially because you have 8 home matches, and that's where you need to dominate.
Correct.
So you're looking at numbers where guys have put numbers on Wankhede, bowlers who are quite good on Wankhede conditions, and especially like Ro said, due factor comes in, who can handle those kind of situations. Batsmen who are good at playing on those surfaces. And at the same time, you still have to go away from home and win matches. So you need to, building a squad is about how can we then negate those conditions as well, have enough people to change your combination. So when you're going into an auction, you be able to try and take 4 different combinations into a tournament minimum, with your spinners, with your batters. At the same time, you need to try and include 1 or 2 match-winning players who can take a game away from an opposition. So that impact needs to be there as well, especially in an IPL. So there's a lot of information available. It's about how you want to structure that and have a squad assembled. But it all depends on the form of the guys as well. But when you pick those experience and the new players, you can get into that structures quite easily. And even with the match scenarios, there's a lot of information available. But if you put everything into your mind also, you can't. It's
Paralysis.
about being instinctive out there in the middle as well. You need to allow the players to do that. But what we do is try and create those matchups so that we know we can react to a situation. Like when you've lost few wickets, and who would be the best person to try and negate that, who has done it before. So you have your backup plans, so you can adjust that. So those are little things that we try and do. And at the same time, you can analyze during a season, halfway season, your patterns, what kind of bad habits that you've developed with dot ball percentages, power plays at the back end, and what are the other teams doing, and how do we encounter that kind of thing. So you can analyze all that and then come up with certain solutions before it gets into a problematic scenario.
Right.
So it's been brilliant to see all that, but it's about understanding what you need and how to take that out.
Sure. KP, other than chasing after rhinos and elephants, what's up with that? But you also play a lot of golf, and golf again draws a lot from data, right? I mean, sorry. Basically, if you had to think of it from that point of view, as a sports person who uses data, improves his game and stuff like that, and you do that with golf, what is lacking in cricket data, do you think? Is there anything that is missing? I mean, I know there's a wealth of stuff. What are we missing?
I don't think it's missing anything at the moment. Sometimes too much information is an issue. And there are certain players that I've played with, there's certain players that that played this great game, that you give them too much information and it can blow their mind. So I think this is a very individual case. And when I played, I certainly like to keep things as simple as possible, because you've got the weight of expectation of going out there every time you go and bat. Like when he walks out to bat, everybody expects him to get 100. So he's got that pressure. That's just here with Mumbai. Then he goes and plays for India, and he's got that many people who expect him to score runs every single time he plays for India. So he doesn't need probably the added and extra responsibility of saying this bowler does this, he does this. It'll be up to the individual case to go and source what he wants. But the great thing about data and analytics is that it's there. So you can tap into it as much as you want to tap into it. Golf is brilliant. These pro traces, these trackers, these dimensions, the green, the reading of the greens. I mean, for us guys, I mean, I'm an absolute, and I know Brian is, and Mahela is too, golf nuts. I'm not sure about you two, whether you're golf nuts, but it just takes up your whole life when you get that bug. But I can also now talk from a commentary perspective. It is amazing. From a broadcasting perspective, it is just sensational to have the ability to know that there's no pressure on you because you're the best player in the world when you're in the commentary box and you can't fail in the commentary box. To be able to dive into analytics and to talk about data. So we'll be on air, like last night we were on air. We were talking about pitch maps. And then the producer will come through and he'll show you on a different screen where people like. It was actually 2 nights ago.
We were getting him out. So as any player that you know, with their time out in the middle on an international level, you will have to analyze. I can tell you now that McGrath would come back for a second or third spell of 6 overs. I knew he's going to bowl 36 balls. How much of those 36 I'm going to face? Not more than 10. I'm going to give Jimmy Adams or Chandrapal to face the rest. You know, when you have lollipop like Shane Warne bowling at the next then, you know, so you do that thing in your head and you understand how you're going to go about putting together an inning. So you do that as an international cricket. And I'm almost sure that present-day guys, you know, Rohit and David, yes, they have those numbers. And they understand what's going on and what a bowler is going to do. But you've got to get that in you, and you've got to understand it and bring it out. And, you know, if you can't, and a guy just throws numbers at you, you know, you're playing this shot and, you know, they're getting you out and they're bowling you this way, but you don't understand what to work on in the nets. Or you don't understand that the best place to bat when you're now walking as a non-striker's end to get, you know, understanding of what's going on and, you know, analyze the situations better. These are things that, you know as an international cricketer you have to do.
Thanks, particularly for the lollipop bit.
I'm only joking.
Yeah, well, I got into a lot of trouble for once doing a piece on Shane Warne and saying that he's not going to be effective in India. He wasn't at the end of the series, but until that was over, yeah, there was a lot of flag. By the way, what's it with both you guys and leg spinners? KP, you averaged something like 86 against leg spinners, and you started with that takedown of Warne in the debut series. Somehow they don't seem
I don't know. I just fancied it.
Right. Last thoughts? Generally, cricket, state of cricket? Rohit?
Is in good hands. For sure.
Sorry. Good hands, yes, but seriously, the IPL, the World Cup coming up, all of that.
Yeah, everybody is waiting for it. I know it's going to be a great tournament, as always it has been. Very challenging. But yes, more importantly, we just have to go there and enjoy, because it comes in every 4 years. All the pressures aside, we just want to go there and enjoy the tournament.
Smriti, you, Harmanpreet, Mithali, you've all spoken fairly eloquently about the need for more matches. I'd actually like to hear a bit more. I realized the other day that you only played 2 test matches in the 5-odd years that you've been playing cricket, against some 51 days. What is happening because of this lack of opportunity? How do you guys feel it? What do you think is lacking?
Well, it's much better last 2 years. With the ICC getting in the championship points, we have to play each country every year. We have that championship point. So we get quite a lot of tools as compared to when I started. So first 2 years I didn't play that much. So right now I really can't complain that we are not playing that many matches, because just 1 month back I was just waiting for a rest period, and I was playing continuously for 1.5 years, and I was just waiting to go back home. So things are really much better for women's cricket right now, and last 2 years have been massive, and the last 2 World Cups have also been really good for women's cricket, and hopefully it keeps growing, and there are more people coming in to watch in stadiums, and hopefully we'll lift a World Cup for India, and then get things started.
Way to go. Question for all three of you, actually. We've been looking at data from the point of view of players. As we close this down, I just wanted to ask, I was making the point earlier that commentary, and thanks KP for all these insights that you provide, the commentary is making for a far more cricket literate audience. From that same point of view, how does data help the end customer, do you think? Or how should it? What should we be doing? It's a kind of portmanteau question. You said about players that there is something called too much data, too little data. How is this?
I think for me to answer, the commentators giving the scenarios, the data, and telling this is why this batsman played this shot in this situation, and making the fans understand in the risk element in that, and that they need to take that. It's actually creating a much more analytical fan base. It can only help, especially with social media and all that, because I know that on my Instagram every night there are team changes. If I keep changing the team the way they wanted me to change the team, I won't even have a squad for MI, because like every game who fails, he's out, the next guy is in, the next game is out. So if the data and if the analyzing helps to understand the game, how tough it is and why we're doing it, to create that consistency, that will only create a better audience, and it will help the cricketers, the current cricketers also. So I think in general, I think that's the way forward, and for the game of cricket as well to evolve and to take it to other places.
And I think what companies like this want is they want the cricket communities and they want the fan engagement. And what he's just talked about there is fan engagement. And that's what data and analytics brings. It brings fan engagement and it brings communities within communities. And that's the way that technology is going now. Every franchise wants it. They all want that community. They all want to build their own fan base. They all want that engagement. They all want to get closer to the players. And what we do is we try and bring the listener into the game. So the dugout is completely different to the world feed. So the dugout this evening, you are trying to put your captain's hat on and you're trying to predict and help the viewer along throughout the game. But then last night on the world feed, then these guys are talking, it's about bringing the fan into the game and explaining why Rohit's done this and why he's doing that and we think he should do this. So it's basically just about, we're just assisting you guys in trying to bring you closer to the game. It's fairly simple, and if you can do that and you can articulate it well, then I think you're ably assisted within the data space too.
So effectively, if we get this right, if we can manage to not just dump a lot of data on the audience, but try and understand the best kinds of data that will help explain.
Maybe it's the content creation within this, right. And it's about keeping the fan engaged. If you can keep the fan engaged, and it's not just through the IPL is 6 weeks.
Yeah,
the key is to keep the fan engaged longer than the IPL. And I know you're lucky because the World Cup leads in after. So, but from the 15th of May, or 15th of July, how do you keep the fan engaged till the 1st of April next year when the IPL starts?
Good point. Brian?
Yeah, I think that when you have fans looking on or coming online to get information on a game, they would have their favorites. They would have their own opinion. may not be a professional opinion, might just be a fan opinion. You might just come into the game of cricket and you don't understand all of it, and you want to know why is this guy bowling and I like this guy. But just the data will give you reasons why. I mean, even just last night, commentary was asking, why isn't Bumrah given the ball after the first 2 or 3 overs? Simply because, what's his name, Baron? Your left-arm fast bowler. Right, Jason Behrendorff, all his wickets, 65% of his wickets came in the first 6 overs of every T20 game he has played. So there's reason for having this left arm. Is he swinging the new ball? Is he doing better? Bumrah now is a big threat down at the bottom. So I believe that what Rohit was doing is most likely ensuring that he got early wickets, but also if there is any problem down in the later part of the game, that he has Bumrah to come back, to fall back on. So all these situations sort of give the fans, an opportunity to understand the game from a professional point of view, from a data point of view, knowing these numbers do exist.
Thanks. And Rohit, Smriti, Mahela, KP, Brian, thanks so much for taking the time. Thanks for coming. Guys.
Thank you so much, Prem, for taking us through an interesting discussion, highlighting the important and current aspects of cricket. Thank you, Rohit, Smriti, Mahela, Kevin, and Brian, for sharing your thoughts with us on the same. And everyone seated out here, requesting you to kindly stand. Well, we are very lucky enough, if you're true cricket fans, to know that we have a great combination of legends, most loved, experience, and a man who's also great with the weather. Kevin, right here. So can we have a huge round of applause for them? Come on, everybody. Requesting you kindly take your seats. Well, with this, we do not say goodbye to you. We need 2 more minutes of your time. Requesting you take your seats. In addition to the launch of Cricket.com, we now have some entertaining TV commercials which have not been shared on any platform yet. So you are the lucky ones to have a first-hand look at it. So can we have a look at the AV, everyone?
रानी का फोन आया।
फिर से? रानी साहिबा जानना चाहती हैं कि इंग्लैंड के जीतने के चांसेस क्या हैं।
And always there is a fan who has some comment or the other and some prediction that they would love their cricketers to go ahead and. Thank you so much, Rohit, Mahela, Smriti, Kevin, and Brian, for gracing this occasion with your presence. Once again, can we have a huge round of applause for them? With this, we come to the end of the grand launch of Cricket.com. I'm sure we have something of fun for all cricket fans coming ahead. Thank you so much, gentlemen. Thank you. We will now open the floor for question and answers to media. So requesting Deepak, Siddharth, and Hardik to kindly come on stage. Any information that you want regarding Cricket.com will now be spoken about the same by these 3 gentlemen. Please put your hands together as they make their way up to the dais.
Q&A on stage, dude. We're taking the Q&A over there.